by empowering them with education, you're going to lessen this fear and get them excited about home ownership. I mean, that's the most important part. This is supposed to be fun. Buying a home is an exciting proposition.
Thank you for joining us. I'm Marietta Companie, and this is Coach on the Clock. Today, I am joined by Michael Madsen of Mode Real Estate in Denver, Colorado. I'm very excited. I really didn't know Michael before the taping of this episode, and I feel like I've been really learning a lot. But our topic today is FOHO. That is fear of home ownership. Yep, you get it. Those clients that want to own, but oops, no, not quite ready. Yep. That's the group that we're talking about today. So, Coach on the Clock, I know you've never been on it before, so welcome. I just want to kind of go through the rules real quick for those of you who are joining us for the very first time. It's 15 minutes. That's 15 minutes start to finish. So we run it just like a Denver Broncos fourth quarter football team. You ready? So just like the Denver Broncos, no timeouts. We've used them already.
Excellent.
They're all gone. That's right. So we're just going to go straight for it. You ready?
I am ready. Thank you for having me.
Oh, thank you. So I know that you've been in the business for a long time, 25 plus years. You are noted throughout the industry, especially in Denver, as someone who is definitely a mover, and that you have a great clientele. Your people are extremely loyal. And I think that speaks very well of you.
Thank you. Hope so. I'd like to think so.
Yeah, you, I think, have a kind of a unique perspective on it. We were talking about it a little bit before we began today.
Yes.
So a lot of people are dealing with a younger crowd these days. So maybe they've been working with a particular group of people that are just their repeat and referral clients. But as you know, that's a diminishing return at some point.
There's no doubt.
Yeah, you got to bring in the young people. Right? Those are the buyers today. And as you said, those will be the sellers in 4 to 5 years.
Absolutely.
Okay.
We are dealing with an aging population, and we have to look to, and we're aging too. So we have to look to the younger generations for sources of business, and they're a good source of business.
All right. But they are not called the millennials for lack of trying. All right. And as we talked about, my group has done our fair share of raising them to be like they are. So we're going to take responsibility here. We're good with that.
Excellent.
All right. So a lot of them do share, I think, a real hesitancy to move forward. And I think that comes from fear, as we were talking about. So if you were a new realtor or a realtor that's just not used to working with this clientele too much, what is some of the first time things that you would do with this type of buyer?
Well, the first thing I would do would be to get to know that audience a little bit better. So if you're, afraid of them, I would get to know their needs better, how they're thinking, how they got to be where they are in their fear. I would think about that a little bit. To help them, I would encourage them to empower themselves with information. So first of all, as we discussed, get pre-approved for your loan, and then come into your office and set them down and give them an education. I always say to all my buyers, particularly new-time buyers and millennials and Gen Zs, come into the office. I want to offer you a free half-hour education about the homeownership process. And I will go over all the contracts with them and all of the process as I know it. And by empowering them with education, you're going to lessen this fear and get them excited about homeownership. I mean, that's the most important part. This is supposed to be fun. Buying a home is an exciting proposition.
Right? I think so.
Turn the fear into excitement.
Turn the fear into excitement. I like that. That was probably one of my takeaways from when we were chatting earlier.
Nice.
Taking that into it. So I know you're working with this, but we did talk about, this. They're used to getting a lot of information. They get information from their parents, from their friends,
Yes.
their coworkers.
Yes.
TikTok, great source of information, as we all know. All right. So they're getting it. It's almost like too much information sometimes. How do you help them kind of streamline that out and really kind of work with just the information that's really pertinent to them and what they need to know in order to be able to feel comfortable with where they are and where they're going?
I agree. I think that getting too many opinions is not always a good thing. And I think I would probably just lay that out on the table and say, the times in my life or I had a problem where I was going through something and I asked all these different sources, you're just going to get confused. So look to your trusted advisors. And if you're going to establish yourself as the expert in the situation, they're going to come to you for advice. And that's exactly where they should be coming to. Say, they call you up or they text you or however they communicate with you, and they have a question. They should be coming to you with their questions, and just let them know that that's what you're there for. I think a lot of people don't want to bother a professional. They think that we're bothered, when they're asking us a question, and that's far from the case. We're here to provide customer service and to assuage your concerns. So let them know that you're the one they should be coming to with their questions because you're the expert.
And I know you talked about that a fair amount in the beginning, was being the expert.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that you said was that you invite them to come to your office.
Correct.
For at least a half an hour.
Yes.
Okay. So not a coffee house, not the local diner.
No, I don't think that demonstrates, professional atmosphere. I think that number one, if you can get the customer, potential client to come into your office, it demonstrates commitment in addition to being pre-approved for a mortgage. And there's no distractions. Here at my office, it's all business. We're here to talk about the business at hand. I'm not here to try and convince you that I'm your friend. I'm here to sell you a house and to assist you with any, real estate needs you may have.
Mm-hmm.
That's it.
I had a girlfriend of mine recently decide she wanted to buy a house.
Okay.
And she sent me her daughter. Okay, always fun. And anyway, so her daughter said, how do I know when I how do I pick the right realtor?
Right.
So of course I was going to send her to a couple. And I said, well, really, I think it's a matter of trust.
Mm-hmm.
Like you have to be able to trust, because at some point you're going to have to make a decision and you're going to have one person that you count on to give you good counsel.
Yes.
How do you establish yourself as that person? That one person that they can count on to be on their side. It's going to give them counsel in that moment, not drama, but counsel.
Excellent. That's a great question. Well, first and foremost, I think it's a matter of educating yourself about the industry, having a willingness to learn something from every transaction, because there's a fair amount of successes, but there's always a fair amount of failures and problems in real estate. And I think that if you're smart, you're going to learn as much from your failures as you are from your successes, and then impart that into your business. And as we spoke about, always remain calm, be the voice of reason. There's so much emotion in a transaction that you need to be the calming, guiding force. If you've been trusted by this buyer, if they've interviewed maybe a couple of realtors and they chose you, it's because they trust in you. So, reward that trust with good old-fashioned common sense advice. You don't need to be bringing in any, as we spoke about, any drama or any extraneous emotion, because you are here to overcome any emotions that are happening. They're emotional enough. I always say to my clients, let me do your worrying for you. That's what I'm here for. So
I like that phrase
too.
You have a lot of really good phrases. I'm going to throw that
too
out
many,
there.
yeah.
So as we mentioned, there's probably some buyers out there, some sellers, realtors that are not used to this type of buyer, because they just either they're new in the business or they haven't been around them in a while.
That's very true.
So what are some of the things that you would say that they're probably going to be most surprised to find out about?
I think the thing that they'll be most surprised to find out is that how approachable millennials are, how approachable the echo boomers are, the Gen Zs. I know they have a lot of different phrases. They're just people. They have a different life experience than you do, but get to know their experience. Ask them questions. Ask them what was maybe the biggest thing that shaped you when you were growing up. How did you get to this point? What do you do now? Find out what their worldview is, and I think you're going to find you have more common ground. I think you'll be surprised to find out you have more common ground than you knew.
Right. I really like the idea that you ask them what shaped you the most, and or shaped you growing up, and really get their story. Absolutely. As you mentioned it. Yeah.
Everyone wants to share their story.
Yes, they do, and feel important.
Yes.
Because they are. Exactly. So what are some of the do's and don'ts you could offer any realtor out there when working with this I guess, more diffident or skittish type buyer?
Right. Well, I think the do's would definitely to, as we spoke of, empowering them with information and setting expectations. That's so important to say, this is what the process looks like. This is what the next step is, because everybody always wants to know what the next step is, but particularly this generation. I think they've been caught off guard in their life with a fair amount of things that have happened in their world. They're blindsided and they don't want to be blindsided. So let them know what the next step is. Always.
Right. Yes.
What don't I think you should do? I don't think you should be answering your phone when they're in front of you. I don't think you should be text messaging when you're showing houses. I think you got to be present for them because they deserve your undivided attention. And in my business, I always know that I'm thinking about 10 to 20 to 100 different things at once. I know that I've got an inspection due later on. I've got to get some marketing on for the weekend. I have lots of stuff to do. It will wait. It will keep until your hour or 2 hours with these people are up. And you're going to find that by engaging with them and giving them your undivided attention, they're going to respect you and they're going to refer people to you too. They have friends. They have friends that are afraid of buying houses too, and they're going to lead the charge.
And you had said something a little bit earlier about multitasking.
Yes.
And this is not the time.
No. No. I am a terrific multitasker and I'm a terrible multitasker all at once. So I think if you're at home at night and you're making dinner with your spouse or you're hanging out with your friends, that's a great time to multitask. When you're in business, give me your undivided attention.
Okay. Now, this particular group is really known for wanting information. They are used to Google. They're used to being able to get 400 different sources.
Correct.
Right. So because of that, they come in with, and they also have, they ask their parents, their coworkers, their, anybody, right? How do you really kind of help them filter through what information is pertinent and what information is either maybe just wrong or not really relevant, but do it in a way that doesn't seem so dismissive or kind of not, like, oh, well, you shouldn't be listening to them.
Right.
Because it's not well appreciated when you do it that way.
No. I think that we all get a lot of advice from different people and we all know enough about, different areas of life to be dangerous. And I just would probably say, please, by all means, share your information with me. And if it's not the right information, empower them with the correct information. That's really the best way to overcome it. Say, I know there's a lot of different resources out there, but let me tell you the truth as I know it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that in establishing yourself as the expert, they're going to trust your information more than Google, more than their uncle who's a realtor in another state.
Right.
Things like that.
Right. Right. And their mother that sold real estate during college.
Right.
Right.
Many, many years ago, because she's going to have her advice too. And I would just say, my best line for any buyer that's, having trust issues, say, please trust me because I'm trustworthy.
Nice. Well, that is our 2-minute warning. That just simply means that at this point, I always like to ask people, because it's amazing to find out what they say.
Right.
So I know you've probably gotten a lot of good advice over the years.
Yes.
Okay. But if I were to ask you just to pick one of those little tidbits of good advice that you'd like to share with everyone, what would that one piece be that you would feel comfortable in sharing with us today?
Oh my goodness. I've been in the industry for a long time and I've gotten so much advice from so many, people that were much more successful than myself. And I'm sure I've used a lot of it throughout the years, but I think if I was going to pick one piece of advice, it would just be to be present, to be in the moment and to know that you can only do so much. I know we all think we can be superheroes and do it all. You really can't. A big part of, having a business and being self-employed is to understand what you're capable of and what you're not. So focus on the task at hand, as they say, eat the elephant one bite at a time. And then things don't seem so overwhelming or insurmountable, so just stay present and focused, fix what's in front of you, get still. Sometimes it takes a matter of, maybe you go for a walk, have a cup of coffee, and then you get in your office and get still and present, and then you can make the next right decision.
Good news.
So,
I think that's great advice.
Thank
All
you.
right, perfect. So if one of our listeners or viewers wants to reach out and wants to get some more information from you, because I think there's a lot of takeaways there.
Yes.
Are you available for them to reach out to you?
I am. I would love to answer any questions or counsel anyone that I can. Real estate, it's a big part of my life. I've, committed myself to this industry, and I'd be happy to help anyone that I can.
How would they reach you?
Email is probably the best way, and it's michael@modedenver.com. Again, michael@modedenver.com. Feel free to write me a message, and
that's
I'll be sure
MODE Denver.
It is. I'll
Okay.
be sure to respond.
All right, terrific. Well, thank you. You've been a great guest.
Well, thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
All right, thank you. And that is it for our episode today. We look forward to seeing you guys again next week.